I'm very excited about this next session, and I know Brian Curtin mentioned the great philosopher Deion Sanders. I'm going to reference Bo Jackson, and that this whole idea that IFG knows basketball. Can you put that slide up? Does anybody know who is in this picture? If you were in this picture, would you please stand up? In case you're wondering, number 32 for Bryant University is our own 6'5" Rich Lombardi, who looks like he's my height in this picture. Now, I'm really excited. Let's go back to the slide with Coach McKillop. So, I heard Coach McKillop speak in about 2010. My sister heard him speak just about 2 to 3 years ago, and I still remember some of the things he said, the takeaways I have from those conversations. As we talk about equipping you with this idea of having the right people, part of that's building the right team. And you heard Carla McCabe talk about the ensemble practice and the team communication. And Coach McKillop's really going to hit on that today. Imagine being a basketball coach in today's world, it comes with a lot of challenges. He has seen generation after generation come through and seen a lot, but also been extremely successful. So I'm really excited. Buckle up. It's going to be great. We're going to start off with a video, and then Coach McKillop will come up and share with us. Thank you.
It almost sounds like a fairy tale. A high school coach, New York born and bred, takes the reins of a once proud college program in the South and methodically revitalizes it.
73-56 over Wisconsin, and they are heading to the Final Eight.
It takes some time, but he establishes a kingdom of sorts, where high-level achievements and consistency are the norm, where competitive fire is tempered only by class and respect, and where production matters on the court and in the classroom.
It's a place where dreams come true. It's where November's arrival is eagerly awaited, and where in March, ladders are climbed and nylon is cut.
It's where the office is just a few steps away from home. It's where Sweet Caroline plays, and where the king of all shooters still calls him coach.
To the best decision I ever made, to come to Davidson College and pursue an amazing education.
For 33 years, Bob McKillop lived and coached in his Camelot, Davidson, North Carolina. The two became synonymous. The final numbers are telling.
634 wins, 23 conference championships, 10 NCAA bids, 19 postseason berths, an Elite Eight run, one hardwood court with his name on it.
At his heart, he's a fiery but respectful competitor, and the accolades are endless.
11 times McKillop was named Conference Coach of the Year. 7 times his team won 25 games. He's the all-time winningest coach in Southern Conference history. He's a Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame nominee and much more.
Do you remember 1998? Davidson was back in the NCAA tournament.
How about 2008? Remember that? Wins over national powers Gonzaga, Georgetown, and Wisconsin on the grand stage. The Wildcats made witnesses of us all.
Texas escaping with a win as a 2 seed. Tennessee at 2 in trouble. Here's another three. Behind the back to get rid of Wallace. Here comes Richards. Finds a cutting Curry.
And what about 2015? Davidson, new to the A-10, wins the league's regular season title and secures its first at-large NCAA berth.
And how about 2022? His final team in one stamp with McKillop trademarks. Tough, efficient, versatile, successful, champions.
33 years. Davidson and Bob McKillop. And although he shifted away from the bench, the partnership between Davidson and Bob McKillop is for the long haul.
Why? Because long ago, Davidson became his home.
Trust, commitment, care.
I've often referred to Davidson as Camelot. I wonder what the king is doing tonight. Well, I rephrased that and I said, I wonder what the coach is doing tonight. Well, I'm honored to be here. It's a delight to join you in this afternoon. Lan, thank you for inviting me. Lan was described to me as a servant leader. He was also described as somebody that your daughter would want to marry. Well, you know, I had that as a qualification for recruiting. I would only recruit players who I thought would marry and be able to marry my daughter. See, character was big on my agenda when I recruited. Yeah, skill was important, but it was character, toughness, willingness to be coached, wanting to be a teammate, work ethic. All those traits, in addition to the size you had and the physical attributes you had. So, Lan, thank you for allowing me to be here. I'd also like to acknowledge Ramey Hensley, who is the chief of staff, who did a magnificent job of lining up all the details and logistics. A great friend who arranged this for me was Tom Larkin, formerly of Wells Fargo Real Estate Investment Trust. I think they're now called Columbia Investment Trust. So thanks, Tom. And I'd like to especially acknowledge Don Patrick, the founder of IFG. Yes, for the foundation of IFG, but more importantly, for the initiative that you and your wife have taken upon relative to Alzheimer's disease. What a magnificent statement about trust, about commitment, about care, the three foundation words of Davidson basketball. So thanks to all of you also for bringing me here. Let me begin by coaching you right now. This is our locker room. And one of the great lessons you must learn as a coach is gratitude. You may say, why am I thanking you? Well, I studied, I prepared, I looked at notes, I wrote notes, I rehearsed in order to make this presentation. And whenever you do that, you become better. Repeating, you create a habit. You build an instinct. So I say thanks to you for giving me this opportunity to make myself better. I have a great belief that we are all coaches in every role of our life. I'm coach basketball. I'm coach spouse. I'm coach father. I'm coach grandparent. I'm coaching the community. Is that the hat that you wear also? And just like my gratitude of repeating something over and over and over, when you repeat the fact that you coach in all of these different roles, in all these different environments, don't you then get better because you're doing it over and over? So you're a coach. One of the great metamorphoses that I went through was learning that a coach doesn't just have the goal or objective of winning games. He has the responsibility of impacting people. And that's what every one of you have. You have that role of impacting people. Whether it's in your company, in your own office, with IFG underneath their umbrella, in your family, in your community, in your marriage. What do coaches do? They analyze, they study, they make game plans, they practice, they study film. They rehearse. That's what you do. You do that every day in every role that you play. So you're a coach. And this is giving me a chance to help you become a better coach. So let me coach you. Imagine this is our locker room. And I'm going to use a lot of locker room stories today. So this is our locker room. And here's the situation. It's 2009. Stephen Curry has just left our team. He averaged 28 points a game as a junior. He left to join the NBA. He was a great shooter, a great talent. He was the straw that stirred our drink. So he leaves. What are the guys behind, the veterans behind, the newcomers, the rookies coming in? What is their thoughts now that Stephen is gone? Hey, this is my chance to get shots. This is my chance to shine. Who's going to fill that void that was left by Steph? And what happened was everyone tried to play that role. Everyone thought that they were as good as Steph. And those that weren't as good as Steph, they started doubting themselves. And those that weren't given that role got upset. So we were dysfunctional. And when you have a dysfunctional team, you lose. And we had been accustomed to winning 25, 26, 27 games a year for 3 straight years. And now we're mired in mediocrity. We're losing. We're failing. Our players came back from Christmas break, and they're on the court shooting, loosening up before practice. And I go into their locker room, and they have all cubicles in the locker room. And what I did was I took their clothes, their shoes, their books, their backpacks. I threw it all on the floor. Completely disheveled the locker room. Walk out onto the court, said, hey, let's go back into the locker room. We're going to have a meeting before we begin practice today. They walk into the locker room and they're aghast. What the heck happened to our locker room? Who came in here? Did somebody try to steal our stuff? I said, sit down at your cubicle. Let's have a conversation. They sat down at their cubicles, and I said, okay, I want everyone here to clean in front of their own locker. They cleaned the stuff in front of their own locker, and guess what? We had a clean locker room. I said, the message, fellas, is clean in front of your own locker, and we'll have a clean locker room. Do what you do. Play your role. Do your job. Is that what goes on in our world today? Is that what goes on in your company? Or do you say, he should be doing this, she should be doing that? See, everyone wants to coach everyone else. Everyone has an opinion. Sweep in front of your own porch, and the world will be a clean place. We must understand we are all coaches. But if we're going to coach, we must first coach ourselves. So I'm going to coach you. And I'm no expert whatsoever. I've been a coach for 50 years and I failed miserably. I had 380 losses. 380. Can you imagine losing 380 times? You know what that's like to walk off the court and lose and do it 380 times? I'm no expert. I've been a spouse for 48 years and I'm still learning what it's like to be a great spouse. Parent for 45 years. Still learning about being a parent. Grandfather for 13. Still learning about being a grandfather. I'm no expert. I'm fractured. I know myself. I have so many inadequacies. Is that who you are? Are you willing to look at that and see the inadequacies that you have and confront them and do something about it? Now you may say, You're talking about coach. I'm not interested in sports. I know nothing about sports. Well, my message is for every one of you, whether you're a sports person or not. It's for all of you. And I don't care how many mountains you've climbed, there's still another mountain for you. So let me grab you for a second and talk about Davidson basketball and the culture of Davidson basketball. And I hope you say, wow, that's pretty good. You know, everyone has a system, everyone has values, everyone has a mission statement. You can go to any bookstore in America and go to that shelf with self-help books. They're all over the place. Everyone has answers. It's so easy if you have a consistent game plan and you stay focused on it and you live it in every aspect of the life that you have, whatever role that might be. Coach yourself. Now, I wasn't born to coach. I never dreamed about coaching. You know what I dreamed about? 1956, 1957, I'm a little kid, New York City, come down for breakfast every summer day. My dad was a New York City cop, and he'd go off to his 8 to 4 tour, and he'd leave the New York Daily News, a tabloid, on the kitchen table. In 1956, 1957, the back page was the sports section. Mickey Mantle graced the back page of the Daily News. That was my dream. I wanted to be the next Mickey Mantle. I wanted to be on the back page of the New York Daily News. Crazy dream. Well, that didn't work out. Then I wanted to be on the back page of the Daily News where Bill Bradley, the legendary Princeton graduate, Rhodes Scholar, New York Knicks captain, I wanted to be the point guard for the New York Knicks. That didn't work out either. I just happened to become a coach. I didn't dream it. It happened. And when I became a coach, all of a sudden I realized, hey, this is fun. I can impact lives. And I can have fun. I can wear short pants and sneakers all day long. And we had great success. I was a high school coach and a history teacher. And we had tremendous success. And I'd turn ESPN on in the late 70s and mid 80s, and I'd say, Bobby Knight, I could coach as good as he can. Dean Smith, are you kidding me? I could do that stuff. Jim Boeheim, I could do that. I had this crazy belief that I could do that. You know, coaching everyone else, but coaching yourself. And I had the great fortune of getting a coaching job at Davidson College, a Division I head coaching job right from high school. That doesn't happen very often. What a stroke of luck that was. And I get there, 1989, move our family from the comfort, the ease of a life on Long Island, where we were close to her family, close to my family. We had this great opportunity to become a Division I head coach. And I was going to go down to Davidson, wave my magic wand, and go back to Madison Square Garden as the coach of the Knicks. Or maybe St. John's. And I'd be on that back page of the Daily News. Dreams. Dreams. You know, we live in a time of dreams. I can remember as a kid, Flash Gordon. Imagine Flash Gordon. Do you think there could be a man on the moon? How many here have never lived a day in their life in which there hasn't been a man on the moon? Who can ever forget 1980s Jim Craig skating around the ice in the Olympics, wrapped in the flag, looking for his father? Miracle on Ice. The recent election. A TV reality star running against a woman of color. A skinny, baby-faced, weak basketball player becomes a global icon. You see, dreams do come true. And you're never too old to dream. Those people who are too old to dream, they die. Dreams don't come true. I challenge you, get yourself a dream and chase that dream. And in the process, let me explain to you how I was able to live my dream. I came to Davidson year one, Our record was 4-24. Magic wand wasn't working. Those players stink. Those guys the coach left me that got fired, they're awful. Blame. Year 2, 9-19. If the college president would give me more money in the budget, if the dean of admissions would let people in school, despite our academic rigor, I'd have better players. Year 3, 11-17. My assistant coaches, they're just not loyal. They're not putting in the extra time. They leave early. They come in late. I got to have better assistant coaches. So now I enter year 4, springtime, 1992. 4-year contract. I was brought to my knees. You see, I went to Davidson College. I was going to climb that corporate ladder. It was all about me. It was me getting to the top. It was me on the back page of the Daily News. It was me getting the job and getting to Madison Square Garden. Me, me, me. It was never about the team. It was never about us. For whatever reasons, we're on a family vacation to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I pick up a book. The book was titled The Championship Season, Notre Dame Football, 1988. And it was a book written by Lou Holtz, the famous coach of Notre Dame. And in the opening chapter, it talked about the preseason meeting. And in that preseason meeting, Lou Holtz asked his players, can you be trusted to do your best? Will you be committed to doing your best? Will you care about everyone on the team and show it? Trust, commit, care. 3 simple words. 3 simple words. And I said, Mom, that's pretty good stuff. Huh. So I said to myself, this is going to be the foundation. This is going to be what our future is. And Notre Dame has a sign, and you'll see it this week, I think, when they play Ohio State. You walk out of their locker room, and there's a sign that says, play like a champion today. And all the players slap it. So I said, okay, I'm going to get a sign. And this is sort of a makeshift copy of it. But the makeshift, right outside of our locker room is a sign that says, the honor of Wildcat, that's Davidson basketball, trust, commitment, and care. And I put it outside our locker room, emblazed on the wall there, and our players would have to slap it when they walked in the locker room, slap it when they leave the locker room. And you might say, that's pretty corny. Well, you know what? I retired now 3 years ago. I still walk in that locker room and still slap that sign. When I slap it, it makes me think. Makes me realize. It repeats. It becomes a habit. So this became something that changed everything. Now, let me understand your feelings about this. A coach is going to be faced with distractions his whole life. Referee makes a bad call. Crowd boos. What's written in the media about my team? A kid has a problem with his girlfriend or boyfriend. Parents, they're just out of control. This father's driving me crazy about playing time for his son. You see, we get distractions everywhere as a coach. You get distractions in the office. Someone doesn't show up on time. Someone doesn't return your call. Someone says no. You get distractions at home. You get distractions. You can drive home from here. You can walk up to the elevator and you can't press the button and see that it's the lights on. You get distracted. There are distractions everywhere. And that's what a coach has to address. He has to wear that coat of trust, commitment, and care and use that to weather the distractions, because they're coming. There was a great song, Frank Sinatra song, My Way. I'm sure you've all heard it. And now the end is near, and so I'll face the final curtain. My way. No, that's not the way. It's our way. You see, it was my way when I failed miserably. It's our way. And I make this a tremendous habit of mine. I never say my family, my team. I say our team, our family. I use the word our as often as I can. I use the word we instead of my and I. Again, you might say that's such a simple thing, but you know what? It carries forward as a habit. And that kind of habit is going to pay dividends for you. So as I look at IFG, and as I look at all of you people underneath their umbrella, you are faced with three questions. How can I be a better leader? How can I be a better teammate? And how can we become a better team? Those are the same three questions that I asked every season. Better leader, better coach, better team, better teammate. Let me explain these three words in graphic form: trust, commit, and care, and see if you could fit yourself into my journey. You see, my journey is your journey. We may wear a different uniform, play on a different court, have a different set of rules, but the scoreboard is always lit. And there are wins and there are losses. And the season never ends. That's what coaching is. And that's what your life is. So let's talk about the word trust. Trust. You know what drives me crazy? Someone will make a comment, and it's a cliche sometimes, but they'll say, to be honest with you. Or how about honestly? Or I'm going to be honest. Or true story. What, have they been lying to me the whole time? Get rid of that cliche and see how much that shows up. Get rid of it. Truth, trust. You know what Robert Shapiro said when he was interviewed by Larry King back in the early 2000s after the O.J. Simpson trial? What really was the truth about that night, Robert? My job is not to deal with the truth. That's what the lawyer said. My job is not to deal with the truth. You look at our media today, headlines, clicks, teases, ratings, influencers. Somehow truth is pushed into the background. It's a casualty. Truth. That's what trust is. Do you doubt? Do you hesitate? Do you fear risk? If you have those distractions, coach yourself to get rid of them. One of the heartbreaking experiences for me when I recruited was to watch a kid come off the court after the game. And the first thing the kid would do would be he'd pull his jersey out, go to the bench, go into his backpack, and look for his phone. He was looking at what people were saying about him in the aftermath of that performance. What are the critics saying? What are they saying about me? Where am I rated now? And I was as ever haunted by criticism and fear and risk and vulnerability as anybody. I went to Catholic grammar school, and I had a nun that said to me I used to think it was every day, but probably once a month. Robert, you're going straight to hell. Distractions, demons. As a player in my playing days, I used to always think the coach was going to come up to me someday and tap me on the back and say, turn in your playbook, clean your locker out. Worry. We worry so much. We seek approval so much. And you know, the more we seek approval, the more we become a prisoner of that. $100. How'd you like $100? I use this exercise with our team. And what do you think a Davidson player would say to me? Is it legal? I crumpled it up. You still want it? Dropped it on the floor. You still want it? Stomped it in the ground. You still want it? The message. Don't let anyone take away your value. Nobody can destroy you. It's your value. It's you. And don't let anybody take it away. One of the demons. I would have players that would make mistake, and then instead of going on to the next play, they would think about that mistake. You know, you're on a golf course and you just hit a really bad shot off the tee. And you're walking, and what are you thinking about? Oh, crap, what a bad shot that is. Now I got to go 4, 5 strokes for this hole. You know, we carry baggage around with us. So you know what I did to our players? I got a backpack, and I put a brick in it. And when practice began, after a guy kept being haunted by his past, I would make him play with the backpack on. A lot of humor there. But can you imagine shooting a three-pointer with a backpack on? Can you imagine hitting that next shot off the fairway with the backpack on? Can you imagine making a sales call with the backpack on? That's what we do to ourselves. We carry around baggage. We carry the past too much without learning from it. Mark Twain said, I have many troubles in my life, most of which I've never experienced. Toss it away. Get rid of the backpack. You know, there was a study by Psychology Today, a magazine, about self-esteem in young people today. And they studied the self-esteem, and they learned that 80% of first-grade children have high self-esteem. 80% first. 20% of sixth graders have high self-esteem. 20%. 6% of eighth graders have high self-esteem. What are we doing to ourselves? What are we doing to each other? What are we doing to our children? We had this terrific young player named Luka Brajkovic from Feldkirch, Austria. And Luka was the greatest kid in the world. He's one of those guys your daughter wants to marry. You want your daughter to marry him. He was talented. He was skilled. He was a great teammate. He listened. He wanted to be coached. He was hardworking. But he didn't trust. He didn't believe in himself. The summer before his senior year, I sent him a photo which I imposed upon our Player of the Year wall. It's this big display, Conference Players of the Year in Davidson history. Obviously, Stephen is up there a couple of times. But I put his picture on that wall, and I sent him the photo back home in Austria. He comes back in August, and I have my individual meeting with him, and I say, Luca, how are you going to do this year? Well, I'm trying to be good. I'm going to improve my statistics. I'm going to improve this. I'm going to improve that. He really wasn't specific. He says, well, how about you being the player of the year in the conference? Well, maybe I'll be the best big man in the conference. I obviously didn't get through to him. So I took a lesson from those nuns at Our Lady Perpetual Help. And I went into the locker room, and our players are sitting in the cubicles, opening meeting of the school year, and I say, Luca, come up here to the whiteboard. And Luca's standing up there, all 6'10" of them, gangly, and feeling a little unfamiliar being in front of all of his teammates, thinking he's going to have to give a speech. And I said, Luca, what are you going to do this year in terms of your achievement? He said, well, Coach, you said I'm going to be the player of the year in the conference. I said, write it on the board. He writes, I am player of the year in the conference. And he laughs about it. Here comes the nuns. Okay, Luca, write it 10 times. Because when I was a kid, I talked a little bit too much. And Sister Maria Del Rey took me and said, you now must stay after school and write on the backboard. I must not talk in class. I must not talk in class. Piece of chalk, blackboard, 100 times, not 10 times, 100 times. I did that a few times. So Luca writes, I am the best big man in the Atlantic 10, player of the year. He does it. Guess what? He became it. You see, he took ownership. The trust was evaporated because he took ownership, but he did it in front of his team. That was critical. And it was critical that he wrote it down and he did it 10 times because it created a memory, an instinct, a habit. And that's what you have to do when you want to change things. I'm convinced that images are so critical to the way we live our lives. Look at what Hollywood does to us. Look at what television does to us. We have our own personal paparazzi with selfies. Images. The image in our locker when you walk past that door and you slap that sign. Images. Have you ever seen an emergency exit sign on a glass door? If you ever see that, the dynamic is interesting. And to hammer home a point to our players, that's in the lobby of our campus. In the lobby of our arena, there's glass doors. And they have these little red signs, emergency exit, alarm will sound. So what I do is I bring the freshmen early in the season, I bring them up there to these doors. Have them sit in front of the glass doors, red sign, and I have another guy, a senior, put the ball, a basketball, outside underneath the trees. And I'll talk and I'll distract the players, and then I'll say, hey, Grant, could you go out and get that ball for me? Guess what Grant does? Sees the ball, doesn't see the red sign, walks straight through the door, alarm goes off. I sent home the message that you got to see what's in front of you. But we don't. So if you have an image, see what's in front of you. How many people have a picture, a photo of their family on their desk? How many of you have photos throughout your house of magical memories from your family, from younger days, from your children, from your marriage? They're everywhere. Do you stop and look at them? Or do you just take them for granted? The more you stop and look at them and think for 1 second, the more that memory becomes embedded. And the more you see that image and the joy that that picture reflects. But we don't. It's just there. It's like a rite of passage. Okay, I got pictures of my family on my desk. Whoop-de-doo. Look at it. Stare at it. See it. Stare at what you want to be. And that's what you were. Want to be that all time. I had this bold belief that we could be a top 20 team. You know the image of the back page of the Daily News? Well, I thought we could be a top 20 team in America. Now, you want to talk about nuts. We were ranked 294 in the country when I started this dream. And I started it when I found the TCC, Trust, Commitment, and Care. Once I believed in that, once I started coaching that, once I started coaching myself about that, all of a sudden, it wasn't about me anymore. It was about us. It was about we. So getting to the top 20 was about us getting there, about we getting there. And that's what I wanted. I wanted us to get there. So in 1992-93 season, I got a copy of the Sports Illustrated. From 1968-69, the preseason issue of Sports Illustrated. Images. And these are a little bit difficult copies to handle, but I had 3 of them here. Same issue. This is the preseason Sports Illustrated. Who's ranked number 1 in the country?
UCLA.
Who's 2?
North Carolina.
Who's 3? Who's 4? 4th in the country in 1968-69. This greeted me every morning when I walked into the office. I put it on my coffee table. Anyone that came to see me had to see it, would pick it up, would look at it. Our players saw it. They saw the image. In 2008, we were ranked number 9 in the country. Yeah. Took 16 years, 15 years. But we got there. And you know what else happens? When you try to help your team, it's amazing the afterglow that happens. I'd have alums from that team, alums who were in school during that time, and they'd come in my office and they'd say, Coach, how's our team going to be? I said, our team's going to be really good this year. That's our aspiration, to get where you guys were. And all of a sudden, these guys in the twilight of their lives now saw that there was meaning in their lives. You know, you 60, 70-year-old financial planners that now got these 20-year-old gunslingers coming in. You could be a torch for them. Light that torch. Build that trust. Give them that image. Trust. Einstein said, imagination is greater than knowledge. Think about that for a minute. Imagination. We are what we think we are. We become what we think we will become. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the globe. What you imagine, you become. If you imagine becoming a top 20 team, that's what you will become. The people with the narrow vision see a narrow vision. The people with the wide vision see a wide horizon. I would see this in advance. I'd smell the crowd. I'd hear the cheers. I'd see myself walking on the sideline. 2 closest friends of mine growing up. One of them was a basketball player. And in 1960, the Olympics were in Rome. And he watched it on ABC. Jim McKay, Wide World of Sports. In 1962, he was asked to write a composition by one of those nuns. What do you want to do when you grow up? This is 1962. 7th grader. You know what he wrote? I want to be an Olympic basketball player. Because he had the image from Jim McKay and the wide world of sports and the Rome Olympics and the Americans getting the gold medal as they stood on the pedestal and the national anthem was played. This guy wrote that in a composition in the 70s. Most guys wrote, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a pilot, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a banker. I'm not sure financial planners made that list. In 1972, you might remember the Munich Olympics. Captain of that basketball team was my friend Kevin Joyce. The same guy who wrote that composition, he becomes the captain of the team. And he's the one that refused to accept the silver medal when they were cheated by the Russians on the last second play. Dreams? Imagination? My other best friend growing up was a guy by the name of Mark Connor. We'd go to Yankee Stadium, and he'd point to the mound and he'd say, someday I'm going to be there. I mean, we're 13, 14, 15-year-old high school baseball players, and he's telling me he's going to be on a mound at Yankee Stadium. You'd go to his house, and there'd be Yankee memorabilia all over his house. A Yankee pennant, a Yankee yearbook, a Yankee photograph, a Yankee hat. 1984 through 1993, number 52 for the New York Yankees, pitching coach Mark Connor. Dreams. Imagination. Huh. But you know, we're too fearful sometimes. We don't want to risk and take that gamble. You know, I dreamed these great dreams and we lost. I dreamed about being in Madison Square Garden and we lost. I didn't get it. Do I quit? Huh. I remember Stephen Curry stood in front of our fans at the end of his junior year at our senior banquet. And he was only a junior. But because he was leaving for the NBA, he gave a farewell speech. And in 2009, in that farewell speech, Steph said, I promise, Coach, I promise my mother and my father, and I promise all of you, I will graduate. He had 1 year of school. In 2022, Stephen Curry graduated. 13 years later. Commitment to a dream, trusting that he was going to get it done because he took ownership of it. When you have doubts, you've got to convince yourself. You've got to brainwash yourself. We moved from the Southern Conference, a very mediocre mid-range conference, to the Atlantic 10, which was a higher level in 2013. And all the pundits, all the great writers, all the journalists, all the media people said, why is Davidson doing that? McKillop's in the twilight of his career. Why would he want to test himself by going to a higher level? He can't compete there. They can't compete there. They won't win a game this year. We read that. All of our players read that. And I made sure they saw it every day because that was posted on the locker room wall. So this is what we did. I got a full-length mirror, and I put it right next to the sign with our code of honor. And as you slapped the code of honor, you also looked in that mirror, and you said one simple thing. I see greatness. They go get dressed for practice, come back out, slap the sign, and say, I see greatness. And I asked them to carry it one step further. I said, when you brush your teeth in the morning and you brush your teeth each night, look in that mirror and say, think, I see greatness. I see greatness. Habit, instinct, repeat, over. And I don't know if this was the reason, but we won the Atlantic 10 that year. Finished first place. We weren't going to win a game. Big mistake to move there. Take that risk. Expose that vulnerability. Trust. Trust built by a habit. The mirror. You remember Muhammad Ali? You think he walked in the ring not trusting himself? I am the greatest. Super Bowl's coming up, and I remember one of the glorious Super Bowls in the late 60s. Joe Namath, the night before the Super Bowl, he gives an interview, headlines in the New York Daily News the next day, I guarantee we're going to win. Recruiting Stephen Curry. I'm often asked, what happened? How did you get Stephen Curry? Let me tell you, we're in Las Vegas at a summer tournament. He's still in high school, and he was awful. I mean, he was atrocious. No one's at the game, thankfully. It's me and a coach from Winthrop and a coach from Liberty, 3 coaches. All the other big coaches are watching the great players. He turned it over, dribbled it off his foot, threw the ball out of bounds, shot an air ball, missed a foul shot. But every time he came off the court, he looked his coach in the eye. Every time he sat on the bench, he cheered his teammates on. Every time he made a mistake, he ran back on defense. I said, I want that guy. I trusted the character issue. And wouldn't you know, his first game, we're playing Eastern Michigan up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, in the University of Michigan tournament. We had just come off an NCAA tournament playing Ohio State. So this is a new year for us, a new group of players, and Steph was in the starting lineup. Eastern Michigan, we're down 18 points at halftime. Steph had 9 turnovers in the first half. 9 turnovers. That means he gives it to them. And he wasn't even the point guard. Coaches gather beforehand, they say, before they go in the locker room at halftime, hey, can we keep Steph in the starting lineup? He's got 9 turnovers. We're losing by 18 points. We got to take this guy out. Remember why we gave him a scholarship. We saw character in Las Vegas. He earned a starting position. Trust him. We went out in the second half. He's in the starting lineup. We win the game. Now, he did finish with a double-double. 15 points, 13 turnovers. Next night, he got 32 points against Michigan in the finals of the tournament. And to this day, he'll tell you that one of the defining moments in his life as a basketball player was the trust that was shown to him in that experience. Can you be trusted to do your best? Will you trust yourself? Will you trust your team? Tough to do it. Trust. Don't doubt. Don't hesitate. Second word is commit. Commitment. Let me tell you, when I came to Davidson, I was committed. Holy mackerel, was I committed. I worked feverishly. But you know what? I was consumed. And there's a difference between being consumed and commitment. You ever been there? Total focus on what you're doing, laser focus. I must admit, I was brusque. I was short with people. I had places to go, people to see, things to do, players to recruit. I had no time for others. You see, I thought by giving others time, I was wasting time. You ever been cut? You look down that cut list, your heart is pumping, pounding, and your name's not there. You're in that meeting, and the coach is reading out the names of the guys who are going to be on the team. There's one name left, and he reads it, and it's not you. Told you're not good enough. Failed. Asked a girl to go to the prom with you, and you turned down. Wanted to go with that guy, and he wouldn't go with you. Left out a sorority fraternity. Didn't get an invite to the big party on the block. Not admitted to that perfect grad school. Didn't get that assignment from the boss. Got a turn down from a client. Wife, husband walked out on you. Failure. You ever make a regrettable decision that impacted not just you, but your family, your life? that haunted me throughout my life. And unfortunately, our culture doesn't teach us how to handle that. Our culture doesn't teach commitment. At the first sign of distress, at the first sign of failure, people look for an instant tonic. Drink, infidelity, quit, take another job. Pity party, woe is me. It's my right to have this. You know what? I know where I am because I didn't get a trophy. I wonder where today's generation is going to be because they did get a trophy. Commit 2 feet in the door. I thought I was committed. I gave them a scholarship, but I was consumed. When you face failure, you need to find a way to come back from it. You know what we did one year? I gave our players tennis balls. We're losing. We couldn't win a game. So I gave every player on the team a tennis ball. I said, I want you to carry this tennis ball around campus with you, wherever you are, dormitory, dining hall, classrooms, gym, car, and I want you to bounce the ball. Go ahead, bounce it. And as you're bouncing it, I want you to say, bouncing back, bouncing back, bouncing back. Our players did this religiously. And all of a sudden, we bounced back. We repeated, we repeated, we repeated. And it forced us into this commitment by a silly exercise like that. Bouncing back, bouncing back. And all of a sudden, we won 15 of our next 21 games. Turned the season around. You know, Stephen Curry, Game 79, 2015, I'm in San Francisco ready to have dinner with him after the game. Now, they play 82 regular season games, and this is game number 79 against the Portland Trail Blazers. They were in first place. It was his first MVP season, and they were dominating. Winning every game, 20 points, 25 points. I think they won 70 games that year. So we're going to have dinner. I'm in the players' lounge after the game waiting for Steph to come. 30 minutes, okay, he's got a press conference. 45 minutes, shower. Hour, he's not there. Hour and a half. Finally, he shows up. Hey, Steph, where you been? Coach, I was lifting. Lifting? You just played a game. It's game number 79. I need work on my core. I need work on my stamina. The playoffs are coming, and I'm going to be expected to play more. I need to work on my core and my stamina. Commitment? And it wasn't a one-time thing for him. I went to see him play in Charlotte last year. Kathy and I go down to the locker room after the game to see him, and they just lost an overtime game to the Hornets, and what is he doing? He's on a Peloton in a hallway. Commitment? Does Stephen surrender? You know, you look at our world today that teaches surrender. The transfer portal. Oh, you don't like your school? Go to another school. Yeah, the transfer portal. Lift weights, lift weights, lift weights. I don't see any muscles there. I'm going to stop lifting weights. Geez, my wife's starting to look old. I'm going to use the remote control. Give me a new wife. Give me a new job. You know, we use this remote control all the time. Our life has become remote control because we're not committed. We don't stay with 2 feet in the door. take a pill. I'll look good in that new dress or that new suit. We don't commit ourselves like we once committed ourselves because the world has made it easy for us to surrender. Our daughter-in-law works for Goldman Sachs. A couple of months ago, she's lamenting the fact that Goldman Sachs has hired all these young gunslingers. They think they can work at home. They don't realize coming to the office early. They think at 5 o'clock they're allowed to go home. Commitment? I used to always have this saying with our players, philo or LIFO. Philo, first in, last out. LIFO, last in, first out. What were you going to be, a philo or a LIFO? And you know what? There are so many people who have perceptions of you. And you got to be mindful of that. Don't be the prisoner of that, but be mindful of that. Realize that you are always on stage. Someone is always watching. You might not think it's the case, but someone is watching you. As a coach, you are influencing your child, your wife, your teammate, your office. You are influencing everybody. Shakespeare's, As You Like It, all the world's a stage, and we are all players. 600 years ago. Well, all the world is a stage. You know, you used to have this coach here in Atlanta named Quinn. He got fired. Now he's with the Commanders. He wears his hat on backwards. You ever notice that? The Jets, back in the 1970s, 80s, had a coach by the name of Joe Walton. He was an offensive coordinator, and he was considered a genius. He wore his hat backwards, but he was a genius. Then he becomes the head coach, and he still wore his hat backwards. He got fired. And the comment was, how can he be a head coach? He can't even put his hat on right. Dom Capers was the coach of the Carolina Panthers in the 1970s, 1980s, and he was a note taker. He would take notes during the game, and when the Panthers were winning, boy, that Dom Capers, he's really a smart guy. He's always taking notes. He's on top of things. And when they started losing, you know, if Capers would stop taking notes and start coaching his players, we might win. You see, we're always on stage. Someone is watching what we're doing. But as we are on stage, if you're committed, you don't have to worry about that. If you're 2 feet in the door, you don't have to worry about that. And then do you just love it when someone says to you, oh, I give 120%. I give 110%. You ever heard someone say that to you? Well, take your car to the gas station and fill it up with 120%. You know, there's no 120%. Just give me your best, what you have. Committed to do your best. Not committed to do 120%. Committed to do your best. And at the first sign of trouble, we surrender. Those who have invested the most are the last to surrender. Those who have invested the most are the last to surrender. Never forget that. Vietnam, Afghanistan. Lou Holtz, the great Notre Dame coach. Do you know he was a coach of the Jets also? After 1 year, he lost. And he said, I did a disservice to the New York Jets and their organization. I hoped to be an NFL coach. I didn't commit to be an NFL coach. And it's all about little things and details because you're on stage, so you have to worry about every little detail. Do you know that Bill Belichick, the legendary coach of the New England Patriots, you know his first 3 Super Bowls were won by a total of 9 points? 9 points. And do you know that the third Super Bowl he won against the Carolina Panthers, he won, I think it was 32-29. The Panthers tied it up. Minute 17 to go. The kicker kicked off, but he kicked out of bounds. So now, Patriots got the ball at the 40 with a minute to go, and they were able to get a field goal with that little time, 41 yards from Adam Vinatieri. All because, why? The detail. You see, I'm convinced sloppiness is a disease. If you're sloppy with details, that's a disease. And I hammer the point home by telling our players this. Our locker room is going to be clean, and you're in charge of cleaning it. And they clean it. They clean the tape up. They clean the papers up. They clean it. I took it a step further. Anytime we went on a road in a hotel, our players put the pizza boxes, the Gatorade bottles, the hoagie wrappers, they put them in a pile right next to the garbage can. They piled the towels in a pile. They left that room. They didn't make it immaculate. They didn't make the bed, but they made it clean and proper and detailed. No one picks up after Davidson College. That was the message we sent. And we left it with those people in the hotel. And we left it in the locker room for the janitorial staff. Is that the way you are with your life, with your details? Does anyone pick up after you because you don't do your details? Sloppiness is a disease. It'll forever haunt me. Are you sloppy? Do you take shortcuts? Shortcuts. The demons, the distraction of a shortcut. It appears every day. I can leave that call till tomorrow. I've got 20 minutes. I'll get off in 15 minutes. My father was a New York City cop, and my father said to me one time, I used to polish his shoes. And I would never polish the back of his shoes. I was in a hurry. I was a kid. I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And he said to me, you know, Bobby, you don't polish the back of your shoes, of my shoes. And you know, that's the last thing someone sees of me. A detail. Bill Polian, who's former general manager of the Buffalo Bills, told me a story about the Super Bowl. He said they had this play. Marv Levy, their coach, had a great play planned for Thurman Thomas to make a run on the opening play of the game. And Harry Connick sang the national anthem. The Buffalo Bills take the field, and there's no Thurman Thomas. Where is he? He's looking for his helmet. He couldn't find his helmet on the sideline because the cheerleaders had moved his helmet. And now their first play, boom, blew up in smoke and set the tone for the game, and they lost the game. All because of a detail. I know Stephen in 2016, when they played the Cleveland Cavaliers, they were up 3-1, and they drank the champagne before they earned the opportunity to pop the cork. You ever done that? They lost 4-3. Cleveland Cavaliers. Details. You've got to be details. But you're going to get distracted, and that's a constant message I want you to hear. You're going to be constantly distracted. It's going to be there. Churchill said this: if you stop and throw a stone at every dog that barks along the way, you'll never get to your destination. There's going to be resistance. It's going to be uncomfortable. But stay committed. Brad Stevens, the vice president of the Boston Celtics, is making a decision. Do I leave Butler University and become the head coach of the Boston Celtics? I'm not sure I can handle the NBA. His wife, Tracy, a very respected attorney, said, Brad, if you don't have the willingness to feel uncomfortable, you'll never be as good as you can be. Discomfort. Final thing about commitment. Practice is difficult, very difficult. Our players go through a routine every day. So in order to get over the hump, what I did was this little exercise. Take a penny. Take a penny. I gave our players at the end of practice, I would call them together and I'd hand them a penny. If we had a good practice from the standpoint of their investment of self. And I'd take a jar and I'd say, okay, put the penny in the jar. Now I did that with 15 players every day. And the next day, did the same thing. And I do this day after day from October 15th right through the beginning of the season, and then eventually through the season. Add a penny. And if a guy didn't get a penny because he didn't give his best that day, he'd get upset because he didn't get a penny. Add a little to a little, and soon that little becomes a lot. Isn't that what life is? You know, you don't think that phone call is that important. You don't think that thank you is that important. You don't think that detail is that important. But when you add it all up, when you add a little to a little and do it a lot, soon a little becomes a lot. And what we did was we took those pennies and took that jar, and it was like a shrine in our locker room. So as soon as practice ended, I go put it back in the shrine. And eventually you see, all of a sudden, wow. And our players would stare at this every day, stare at what you want to be, and they would think that they just had to earn a penny that day. And I talked to you before about the glow from something that you do. Stephen Curry's roommate, his name is Bryant Barr. He just opened up a private equity firm in Silicon Valley. You know what the private equity firm is called? The Penny Jar. It's how fascinating how all that stuff plays together. And as you go through your office, your job, your responsibilities, understand, stay committed. Keep your 2 feet in the door. It's an all-time thing. Every part of your day, every part of your life, you go home with your family, it's the same thing. Failure is going to be there. That's going to happen. But what do you do about it? Do you focus on the failure or do you focus on the response? The transfer portal. Do you focus on losing players? As a player, do you focus on the school that looks more attractive? People used to always ask me, why do you stay at Davidson so long? You know, I look out there on the grass and it looks beautiful, it looks green. But then you get into that grass and you see there's a lot of crabgrass there. Right here, the grass looks green. I know it because I experienced it. Okay, so that brings us to the final thing, care. Do you care about each other? And do you show that care? And I know I'm keeping you long, and forgive me, but I think it's really valuable. One of the greatest diseases of our culture is the disease of me. The disease of me infects every one of mankind. All about me. It ravaged me. It infected me. I wanted to get to the top. I wanted to climb that ladder. As I said, I was brusque. I didn't give people the time of day. My game day routine was ridiculous. I walk across the street from the arena to my house at 4 o'clock. And from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, I would study my notes. I knew everything. I was prepared. And in the backyard shooting was our young son, Matt. And I'd walk right by him, I'd wave to him, I'd go and sequester myself in my office. And I'd walk over to the gym, and I'd greet our players, and I was tight as can be. Because I had so much information. And then when I learned TCC, trust, commitment, and care, I'd stop and I'd shoot jump shots with Matt. And I'd work with him. And I didn't spend as much time preparing. And I'd walk across the street, and I wasn't tight anymore. And the players would say, gee, coach must be confident. Coach must believe we're going to win. He's relaxed. And wouldn't you know that work with our son Matt led to Matt becoming a great player for us. If you have one thing to talk about with your family, it's this. This is the canoe theory. This is our preseason poster, schedule poster in 2003, 2004. I took our players down to the lake, 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning in October, and I said, we're going to take a picture in a canoe. Geez, what is a canoe theory, Coach? In a canoe, everyone has a paddle. Is that the way it is in your house? Does everyone have a paddle? Is that the way it is in your office? Does everyone have a paddle? Everyone's in the same boat, and we're trying to advance to the same destination if we're on a team. And the coach is out front, and he's leading you. He knows when to stop to get rest. He knows when to position yourselves in different seats. But there are some people that don't want to put the paddle in the water because they're lazy. There are some people who are tired, so they let the paddle just drag in the water. There are some people who don't like their seat because they don't like the role they're playing, and they want to get up and move and sit in the front of the canoe, and they tip the boat over. And that's what we are. We're all in a canoe. Is your paddle in the water? Is everyone on your team have their paddle in the water? That's what it's all about, having the paddle in the water, the canoe theory. Get in your canoe. And in conclusion, I want to tell you this, probably the most important thing I'm going to tell you today. If I had to live my life over, I'm 74, if I had to live my life over, I would give the gift of time and the gift of love built on a foundation of trust, commitment, and care. And I would do it more abundantly. Time and love. Time. One of the most precious gifts we have. You can make more money, but you can't make more time. Once you give time to somebody, you are giving them a piece of yourself. Time and love. Love. Caring for people. Showing your care for people. Showing your kindness for people. Is that something that you really do? Or is that considered a lack of toughness? Coaching taught me many great principles. I was tough. I had to grow tender without losing my toughness. I had to give freedom, even though I was so disciplined. I had to balance that. And I had to always have my power of leadership in harmony with truth. And finally, I had to understand that confidence always had to be balanced with humility. Take those messages to the bank. Invest them. Be the best you can, and you will be able to find the dream that stands in front of you. Trust, commit, and care. And when you fail, trust more, commit more, and care more. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for the words today. Thank you for what you've done for so many of your student athletes' lives. And I know you're still a coach to them today. So awesome. Let's give him one more hand. That's great.
Thank you.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a 15-minute break, and then you're going to hear the bells ring, and you're going to go to the speed networking. We're going to have that for an hour, and so go back to the same room you were in yesterday. And did I miss anything, Laura? That's good. You guys take a break, catch up with each other. Speed networking will be next. Thank you.